really crazy wild for me to say, but 2011. And considering all the big news about 2012, I'm just anxiously rolling along. And with this being the very first day of the new year, it is just a joy when I'm able to spend it with friends, and I hope you feel the very same way too. Kwanzaa, of course, we all know, started as a bringing together of community. And when in the 70s and 80s, well 70s, late 60s, 70s, Black Power became a word to gather around the idea of Kwanzaa and Kwanzaa Saba. I have a little scroll on the podium when you walked in that will list the days of Kwanzaa, which is truly the platform on which the idea of Kwanzaa was perpetuated. It's a community piece, and for the Black Power movement, for Black people in particular, to think and dwell on these. And they are unity, which is umoja. Unity belongs in everybody's community. But during the Black Power movement, there were so many fractions. We were trying so hard to be seen and heard and gather parity and to come together. And so unity was paramount at the very first day of Kwanzaa, to be gathered around and to celebrate it. Kujichagulia, self-determination. It's very powerful in my heart. That's one of the things that my husband, just a wonderful man, always aspired to and decided upon. No matter what situation he was in, it was self-determination. I will plan, I will have the self-mastery to make this situation work for me. And then with Ujima, collective work and responsibility, of course, we really strive for that here, collective work and responsibility with the young people in our program. Ujama, cooperative economics. We started here at KI on a quality of life plan for the Mid-North area, which would certainly bring about cooperative economics, and that's one of our focuses as we look at that. NIA, which is purpose. Purpose allows us to get up in the morning quickly and know that there's peace and joy in the world as you move through to the goal, which is always a journey, and Kaumba, which is creativity. And the creativity keeps the juices flowing and the ideas rolling around in your head. And then, of course, there is Amani, which is a very, very last day of Kwanzaa, and just how genius I feel that Malana Karinga was, Dr. Karinga was, when he put faith on that last day and the first day of the new year. So with that, I'd just like to, I'm sure we all know about the Kwanzaa symbols, which signify our community. There are candles for the 7 days. There's a kinara that holds the candle. I have, rather than do the regular and go over every name and what they're all for, each has a symbol. And of course, the mat that's here is about our foundation. And our foundation is what we build on. And I thought, this is supposed to be a bowl of fruit, but it'll be here before the end of the night. And the corn represents the children in a particular family. And for us, we are youth initiative. And as I am closing out the ceremony, I just wanted to ask anyone if there's something special that they have brought into their Kwanzaa setting that they'd like to share with anyone else. For me, it is my family celebrates Umoja, the first day community. And we decided that we would give each other the gift of the heart, the gift of the spirit on Umoja, which is about family and community. So now, at the end of our celebration, at the end of our talking about Kwanzaa for Umoja and community and family, we get a pen pal right after Thanksgiving, a gift, a secret pal. And your commitment is to, even if you can't come to Umoja, is that you bring or send your gift of the heart and the spirit about that person. And so it's a sharing, family sharing. And so I pulled my sister-in-law, and I was able to stand there, and she's there with everyone else, and tell her how wonderfully I feel like she has become so family to all of us. And some of the younger people mentioned events and things that happened in their lives and how much they appreciate the person they had chosen. And I walk away from that with such joy, because it informs me of family members that I didn't even know things about. So Kwanzaa has so enhanced my life, just looking at each one of the days, but for us, a family gathering. In fact, it's turned into our family reunion once a year on Umoja. So I was wondering if there's anyone else. Yes, Reggie.
As you talked, it brought back memories some 40 years ago, and with the integrations into the school system, and there were young black kids that were bused all over the city for the first time, going in hostile atmosphere, and they were having problems. So I was asked to pull them together. So we picked Imani, which means faith to our community, our teachers, and our leaders. In 40 years, I still see, and I'm proud to say, I have a great nephew that's a part of your group. So Imani lives on. And you, young people, are our future. We depend on you. We might not say it, but we depend on you. And to see young brothers and sisters that have consciousness, it makes me feel good inside. And it makes me feel good inside that we have people such as the leaders here that is willing to put their time and energy, and money can't even pay, and they don't get paid that much, if at all, to do what they, just a little. So, right on. So I honor you also, and I respect that the mantle is being passed, and we must keep on keeping on.
Who's your nephew? Great nephew.
Excuse me?
Said your nephew.
How do you do?
Who's your great nephew?
Ejai?
Oh, Ejai. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Egypt.
Big smiler over there.
What's the brother? Raise your hand.
And he's at Indiana University. I'm proud of him.
Is there anyone else that has come to have Kwanzaa as a very meaningful part of their end of the year? Yes, sir.
Like Reggie, I like to shout out to the young people mostly. I'll start with the young adults that I've worked with over the years. Ejaz, Jerome, Aaron over there, Milik over here, Layla, Asa, Avery, Russell, Damon over there, all of the KI Community Schools. Shouts out to KI Community Schools. For me, Kwanzaa is really, it's less about the celebration and more about celebrating what work we've done over the year. And so I just want to take a quick minute and say some special shout outs to those students who are in school that graduated. Avery, Ivy Tech grad, web designer on the way to IU, PUI.
With honors.
With honors. Jerome Harden, who very special circumstances, and he's returning to school January, correct? at Ivy Tech. Been out of school for 2 years, but he decided he wanted to go back to school.
Wonderful.
On to a year ago and quit school, and has returned to school and has managed to finish 2 years. Shouts out to him for going back and completely going back again. Hugh, right here, a person I just met recently, work study. Just came into work with a web designer, came in, started working with Avery. She's graduated web design from Ivy Tech, and she's now also going to IU in January also, right? Yeah. Josh got his shouts out already. See another young lady graduated from Ball State, first black female to graduate with operations management or something. Engineering. I'm sorry, operations management. So shouts out to Ronnie, yes, Nene. I know her, Nene. Definitely shout out to my son Melanie, who you guys all have come to know. Senior now in the Department of Philosophy. Gone from being a non-reader to out-reading everybody else in the building. Lovely mother, of course, who never puts a book down. She like, well, I'm not talking about you today, man. I'm talking about you in college, but you're on your way there. So, you know, it's really important on the issue of education. We feel that's a very important aspect of our work. Additional shouts out to the young men who have returned, who we've worked with for years, and have reinvested in this work here. Khalil, who I don't see, will be back shortly, had the courage to open his own school. We thought he was crazy when he suggested the idea. Paula and I tried to run him away. We weren't able to do so we made the space available. As you guys know, Khalil, he's also college trained, but has decided to take his college experience and reinvest in his own community. And for us, education is not about becoming corporate servants. It's about taking that education to reinvest in our own community. So it's a good feeling. And then, of course, last but not least, I'd like to say continue to thank you to my mother who's sitting here, who came out tonight, who has put up with her oldest child's strange behavior over the years and continues to support our efforts. So those are my thank yous today. So looking forward to 2011 and looking forward to everybody digging in and doing what Kwanzaa is really all about, which is the work first for the celebration next year. So hopefully all of us are committed to our own development, our family development, our community development. So when we come out for this event, we'll all have a lot to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would like Ashley to come over and help me light the candles. And when we finish the candles, of course, we must have harambe's. I mean, how can you do Kwanzaa without harambe's? And then I would just like to go around the room, and for those who would like to just mention before we end the program, what wonderful thing happened to you this year that you would like to share to note? Or what this coming up year, if there's a special project that you are investing in that you feel so passionate about and want to do. So that's something that happened last year. We'd just like to go around the room and share, if you would like, or something that, so if you're thinking about that, and we're going to like to finish on this.
Got a light.
Really, it's got matches.
Just get a lighter. Yeah, anybody got a match or a lighter? I got one.
You got matches? A real light, huh? I said, no, honey, this will get you here. This one's already burning. This one. I think the two of us can do. Okay. You know, first. Oh, that's one. Oh, okay, we'll just go backwards. Here, I'll call them out. Today is, oh, she didn't do her mine. Okay, she's writing Umoja now. Kuji chocolate is next. In fact, the Kwanzaa setting belongs to her parents, her family, as a matter of fact. I couldn't find mine. And so Jill was wonderful enough to say, let's pull that. Okay. So Moja is the black one in the center. It's lit every day. And Kuji chocolate is one side. Ujima is the other side. Ujama is in the next one. Mia is next. Kaumba, and then this last one. And now we'll do our Harambe. Would you lead us, please, Miss Asali?
Harambe.
All right, I'd like to start with, now we've all been thinking about this. Sadaye, what fabulous thing happened to you last year that's just so memorable even today? Or, what are you looking to do next year?
Eat more healthy and
Well, that sounds like a very big goal. Good luck. Is there another young person who would like to step forward? Chinlater. Well, a quite big thing that happened to you last year, but this is the last day in the year. So what happened last year that just has you focused and you're proud of? Or what are you looking to do next year?
well, I've been saving up for, I wanted a chameleon for 2 years now, and I've been saving up for a while. And this year, 3 days ago, I actually finally got my chameleon. And my history with pets hasn't been good. It hasn't gone very well. And I've had my relatives tell me that I can't waste my chameleon's life like I did my fish and stuff. So I really want to try and keep the chameleon alive as long as possible.
Well, very good. Very good. Is there another young person who would like to share something about last year that was an especially great feat? I didn't see. Simone?
Being part of the community school.
Being part of the KI Community School is a different experience. Are there any adults who would like to share something about last year? Oh, yes. Aaron.
Over the summer, I beat Lawrence, Harding, and Menlick in chess all in one day. Never done that before. And this year, I want to read more.
This year what?
This year, I want to read more.
Can't hear you, got to speak up, man.
Yeah, say that again, Angel.
This year, I want to read more.
This year he wants to read more.
Okay.
But him was saying, what was that first one? What you did last year?
I beat both of the Jeromes and Menlick in chess in one
He
day.
beat both of the Jeromes and Menlick in chess this past year, this summer. And he's feeling pretty good about that.
He's taking on all newcomers this year, if I want some of them.
All right. Kim? We have some adults. Wonderful. Yes.
Well, my name
name is Angelica, and I help prepare the food up here when my daughter and I are here during the week. And health is very important to me. That's my daughter who says she's going to improve her health in the coming year. But health is wealth. You can have a lot of ideas and you can do a lot of things, but if your health isn't really in gear, it's kind of hard to actualize your visions. And so it's important for the children here who are experiencing phenomenal information and getting a real good concept of life in a really holistic way. But we want the diet, the intake to reflect our getting closer to Mother Nature and getting closer to each other, our relationships. So the last class, at the end of this last session, all the children went around the table and gave their resolution, their food change resolution, and there was some very encouraging good ones. And so I know personally I have changes that I want to make for the better, and will do, and we definitely will do, and we'll support each other for the children to make changes also. And maybe take it a little bit, in fact, it's a goal to take it a couple of steps further than the parents, to just go beyond us and take us out of that slave habit that we've been in for a while. So.
If there's another, before I close, I've got to employ one of the young people in our school's mother. I saw her go to school. I saw her study like crazy. I saw her tired and nutty and just pressed. And I would say, good luck. She said, oh, hey, listen, I'm ready. Luck is an aside. I'm ready. And sure enough, she did very, very well this last semester that I knew her in going to school. Ms. Satia Snorton, could you just mention an accomplishment?
I received my bachelor's.
Yay!
Thank you so much for sharing.
I would like it. I'm Ann Henning Lightfield. Mari asked me to come, and I'm excited. It's been a while since I've been in Kwanzaa. Usually it's very crazy at this time of the year. But 2010 was really significant to me because a project that I had been working on failed. But out of that project came a book, my second book, of poetry, The Essence of My Existence, published in March. We did a limited number of copies of 1,000, and in October we had to do a second ordering of that, and out of that has come a CD of spoken word, and out of that, just dropped in my lap, I am now in a doctoral program where they invited me to come, and I didn't have to apply. They actually, that's strange.
Yes.
But so I started actually in December. So it's been, I give all thanks and all praise to God.
I know of people right now trying to get into doctoral programs. Any kind of postgraduate work, nursing school is really tough to get into. So many people have flooded back, and you went by invitation. The universe, God just kind of opened up and reached in. Yes, Satia.
I think the challenge for me was the issue I had with my son in school in the Washington Township school system. And the greatest thing that happened for me, of course, beyond receiving my bachelor's degree, was him being entered into this school. I had no doubts that, I knew I was on board as soon as Khalil said so. My son was already being homeschooled by Julie, so I was really excited, and he has just progressed. He just really overcame all the negatives from Washington Township.
And so you were able to just put your mind on the books. This was a studying mama. This was she was a wonderful example to the boys. Last piece. I'm also so excited about getting cosign, about getting validation on adulthood too. I didn't have a name for it. I just knew that at 60 years old, my sister had passed, my husband had passed 10 years. I just was so hanging out there in the wind. It was just such a feeling of being a human being in the middle of a huge circle that was just getting wider and wider and wider, and I was just so isolated. And I just went on and stepped out and got really busy developing KI. Him and I and his wife and others all came together, and we said, let's do a youth initiative, let's make it a 501c3. And I just was able to work really hard. But then after a while, I was 60. So then at, 61, 62, 65, I'm still hitting it. I said, what's going on with me? So I was awarded, I got an award. There were like 1,400 people nationwide who something had been sent in on what they do and what they're doing in their lives over 60 years old. And I was one of the 49 selected because of the work that I do here. Our award was wonderful. We get awards. How many awards are there? Just say all over the world, you get awards. And I don't have that many, but I said, oh, how special. And they paid for me to go to Philly, and they had the summit. And when I walked in, and the very first event that they held, it was all gray hair and wrinkled faces, my group, my peers, people that I just could relate to right away. And then as we talked to each other and as we had our summit, it was about encore careers, E-N-C-O-R-E, meaning as the theater curtain goes down and somebody claps so much out there that they come back on and do another song or so. So encore careers is about adults who have spent 30 years, from 20 to 50, figuring out how they're going to move through the world as adults, picking up all kind of wonderful wisdom and knowledge on what they shouldn't have done, what they did do, which was great, what their friends or children have done. And then you get to be 50, and this little tiny voice in the back of your head says, senior citizen. And you ignore it. Nope, not me. I'll deal with that later. 55, the voice gets louder. Senior citizen. By 60, it's so loud and clear, it can stifle your decisions for growth because it's so loud. Senior citizen, old person. So at this conference, this particular group, City Ventures and the Encore Careers Project, is to put out the word that all baby boomers, there are just too many of you all to reach 60 and think you're on retirement going from entertainment to entertainment. We are the social innovators. We've been around long enough to know what negatively impacted us, what could have been better. And so that is our job. So you can imagine, I felt inspired. I can run around and work as hard as I want to and not feel like I'm a nut because I should be at least taking it easy and trying to retire, which I'm still going to do. I'm moving on 70 fast. But the award was significant to me because, one, it was an award, and I really appreciated the accolades along with the other 49. But it was the information that helped inform my decisions every day, that you didn't get to be 60 by happen chance. Now that you are, what will you give back? What will you invest? You are primed to do that. And don't close your eyes and leave this earth without having made that mark with some human being who remembers that you were a benefit to society. So that was my big one. I'm just so full of adult too is what this new stage is called. I'm sure you'll be hearing about it that I've got to mention. So, Executive Director, would you
I'm
come
just going to
forward?
talk to you, sorry.
Okay, and I'll make sure all the food's on the table.
I'm going to
Thank you,
turn this over to
Interjector.
Melanie. The one thing we asked, we have some of the young people that I mentioned earlier, we have what we call our youth management team, and often, people who try to help us do our work, they say, hey, what about this, what about that? And Amari has always been a great supporter of ours, and if you haven't seen her book, Clarity's Concepts, great book. One of the things that's been going on in another group is a particular chapter, so I asked our students to take a chapter out of that book and just kind of introduce some of the thoughts they had about it. And I'm hoping you guys raise some hard, difficult questions. I'm sure you will. A lot of times, material of that nature, when we get older, it's passionate for us, but it comes out of our own personal experience. And often, when you're younger, some of those same things don't hit you the same way. But I asked them to take that particular chapter, share with us some of their thoughts about it, and I'm hoping we can engage in some difficult questions and see if we can have some intergenerational communication around this particular subject. We won't do long, maybe half hour maximum. And then, of course, I know you guys want to eat, but here we go. So I'm going to get all yours.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Hardy and Rasul in Eric.
Rasul, come on up. Come on, waiting on you. All right. The chapter we're getting ready to discuss briefly is Chapter 8 out of Clarity's Concept. A virtual grounding African style. Each of them has chosen a particular paragraph that interests them, and they're going to discuss that and why it interests them. I'm going to give an overview of the chapter with a focus on grounding. But before we start, Rasul walked in here. He was the earliest person here today, and I asked him to quickly read a paragraph and tell me what he thought he got from it. So Rasul's going to read his paragraph to you and then give you his interpretation of what it means to you. And then we'll go down the line. You guys speak up, Rasul.
Okay.
You guys speak up.
Okay. Here we go. When majority rule, by definition.
Hold on, can you hear?
No.
You guys speak up.
Hey, Rasul, can you hear me, Rasul?
Yes.
I want you to yell at me, man. You really yell.
Okay.
Start yelling.
When majority rules, by definition, assign an identifiable minority to a position of inconsequence. How does that minority leverage for its own best interest? Maybe the question we should be considering, the issue around which we should be grounding is, how does an identifiable minority population, or target group survive in political systems such as democracy, when the significant tenet of that system is its foundation, in fact, is based on its commitment to the control or process it has in place to ensure its own survival.
Oh. I think I do about every other is enough.
I gotta tell what I got for that?
Yeah.
Okay, what I got for that what I understood for that was, when the majority wins by a vote or any other type of majority terms, it usually the majority puts the minority in a position where it has no consequence, no worth coming from it, in a position where nothing good comes from or anything comes from it. identifiable minority that no one knows or no one really cares about. So it tells me how is a minority of that vote or majority term gains anything and survive in this type of democracy, in the type of political democracy.
All right. I'm going to give an overview with a focus on grounding, and then they'll tell you exactly what they're doing. Virtual grounding, African style. Consider democracy as a paradigm for the philosophy, methodology, and structure of colonization. One point that was spoken to in the chapter was a numerical disadvantage. How does a majority rule system benefit a minority population? We have yet to learn that the basic tenet of democracy, an identifiable minority clearly distinguishable from the majority population, is not supposed to be in control of itself. In the 60s, Lerone Bennett advised, through the quote, use history as directed. Look back and identify what has taken place and how you should move forward. Another concept that was spoken to throughout the chapter was otherness. Our rush to otherness, a clear attempt to morph through situational shifting. This exemplifies the power of naming in relationship to the colonization of people's minds. When we say otherness, we're speaking of this mindset where we diss ourselves, where we place a value on color, light complexion over dark complexion, white over black. So we're constantly trying to turn ourselves into something that we are not, situational shifting. The reason this exemplifies colonization of the mind is the simple fact that we believe that there is a value system for color. We have not accepted race as privilege, race as leverage, race as a pocket of power. And that's the opposite of dissing yourself and your identity and who you are. It's embracing yourself and using that culture and that history as a force, as a power. In the book, it was two examples utilized, Jewish descent people as well as Hispanic people, and how they embrace their culture, how they use it to unify themselves, to create cohesiveness and move forward to productivity. Grounding or grounding. Explore, discuss, and strategize regarding ways we should move in order to bring about the significant changes we so desperately need. Grounding is imperative, and we are to brainstorm our way out of the quagmire that inhibits our development and stunts our growth. It is imperative that we leverage participation in the processes that presently work against our best interests. Leveraging is possible, especially in small power group situations. That's what we see here. At the outset, we wonder if we might be audacious to examine democracy as a paradigm for colonialization, and we offer a definition of colonialization: suppression and exploitation designed to keep people powerless, mystified, dependent, and subordinate. I'll leave it at that for now.
Alright. I got such a group colonized as we are to relinquish control of itself, accept its own subjugation as legal as mandated by majority rule, and finds it difficult to even conceive of the grounding or planning necessary to assert the right to self-governance inherent in its humanity. For to initiate such a struggle, complex and long-ranging, requires first the courage, second the intellectual freedom that only decolonized minds can bring to the table, and third the energy and focus long-range struggle demands. And I picked this paragraph because it's like a guideline. It says first the courage, second the intellectual freedom that only decolonized minds can bring to the table, and third the energy and focus long-range struggle demands. So you gotta have the energy to create your own, the courage, and have your be able to have a free mind to be able to create your own.
All right, I'm reading paragraph 2 on page 83. At this point in time, color should be irrelevant. It simply is not. Color remains an indicator, a false signifier of status, consciously, sometimes unconsciously, but always.
Speak up.
I'll start over. At this point in time, color should be irrelevant. It simply is not. Color remains an indicator, a false signifier or status, consciously, sometimes unconsciously, but always without conscious. It assigns value. It becomes irrelevant. The reference for how a group is or is not received, allowed to participate, or deliberately held at bay. One sees it at work, even at the international level, where what appears to be obvious is that color continues to be the factor that determines which country or the league with immediate relief in times of devastation, and which are merely observed with concern by governmental circles, left to survive largely through the efforts of non-governmental volunteers or private professional organizations. It is color that delays massive international intervention and relief efforts in the crisis of dislocation and genocide. And I'm going to briefly talk about Haiti and how this is a clear example. Earthquake in Haiti killed around 200,000, 1.5 million homeless, and destroyed 70% of the infrastructure. At least 3,000 non-governmental organizations are operating in Haiti, struggling with insufficient capacity and the fact of overwhelming poverty and environmental conditions. What needs to take place? Affordable water distribution system, invest in the local agriculture system. Why I'm speaking about this is because of delays. Only a fraction of the money has been raised in the country that has actually contributed this full amount. And the only country that has contributed this full amount was Brazil, with $55 million. The U.S. has contributed to $1.5 billion. Only a small fraction has been spent. The rest is tied up in Congress. So, there you go.
The paragraph I chose is on 85, it's the first and second paragraph. It talks about naming. The crisis of color, identity, and the questionable ability of colonized people to break free of their psychological bondage is not new. In his seminal volume, The Destruction of Black Civilization, Chancellor Williams spoke at length about the historical use of naming as a political weapon of enormous power. As process, naming substitutes one form of thought for another and plays a pivotal role in the colonization process. Williams, in recounting the Congo-Anglo story, cities that arrived of the Portuguese at the Congo River in 1488. Their astonishment at the complexity of the highly evolved civilization they found there, and how it fueled their ambition to conquer the region and to forge for their mini-state of Portugal, an empire larger than Europe. Realizing their aggression would be much easier if they could capture the minds of the people first. They dismissed the presence of an entrenched African spiritual belief system, introduced what they proposed as Christianity, complete with missionaries who would promise a better life, but who would exploit and gradually control the converts, who would ultimately divert from the African rulers to themselves, the people's allegiance and control of the all-important cultural value system. And I felt that this one was important because I could still see examples of that today. Like, whether it's the way that you dress and how a suit and a tie means you're trustworthy and you come from success, as opposed to baggy jeans, that you're untrustworthy and that you're a threat. And even in going to school, some of the lessons that they teach you is also that you can go back into the system and that the major system will survive. So that's why these two are most important.
I would like to open up to the audience to engage. Anything you heard?
Excuse me. I want to get some clarity on the term colonized and obviously inverse decolonized. What does it mean to have a colonized mind?
number one. And then number two, my question is, Milik, you spoke about the opportunity of minorities still being able to have leverage, for I guess whatever issues are pertinent. Is that still possible with colonized minds as well, to access that same kind of leverage?
Clear. So, my answer? All right.
Collectively, throughout the nation.
Does anyone want to speak for me? My definition of colonization is enslavement, not being able to think freely. You're mentally, it could be physical, but I was referring to here a mental bondage. It inhibits the way you move through the world. It can really be productive for you and your people. Now, I didn't say that you can leverage power with a colonized mind. I said decolonized.
Right. I was asking if you could.
With the colonized mind?
Sure.
It's probably possible. I wouldn't suggest. But I don't think it's not possible.
I have a question to add on Khalil, because you asked people who leverage power. One, I want to define power, and I guess my question is, leveraging power, is that enough? So even, in the context of whether you're colonized or not, let's say, if you're not colonized, how do you define power? Is one definition of power different from the other, if you're colonized or not colonized?
Can you repeat it, please?
I said, could you define power for me? And if you have a colonized mind, would your definition of power be different from if you don't have a colonized mind? And is it possible not to have a colonized mind?
What she said?
Definition of power. Correct.
I don't know if I could say the definition of power, but I do think it's separate between the colonized mind and the uncolonized mind, I believe.
I'm going to just start with the definition of power. My definition of power is being able to leverage resources that benefit your interests.
Or control those resources.
Speak up. Did you hear?
Yeah,
Did you hear hard?
no, I didn't hear hard.
To add on to his definition, he said able to leverage resources. I said able to control the resources.
Leverage and control.
And what's the second part?
I just asked if the definition of leveraging power would be different if you're a colonized mind versus
Yeah, well, your definitions are always dependent on your mind state.
So what's a colonized mind definition of power?
I'm sorry? What is a colonized mind?
What would a colonized mind definition of power be?
What would I say? Otherness.
What?
Otherness.
what does that mean?
What's the difference between a colonized mind and an uncolonized mind?
I would say terms.
I wonder if anybody has a notion we have a contemporary example of a colonized mind in action. And I'm asking a question, but the answer to that, let's look at one of our most brilliant people, and I think that's Obama. I think surely as president, he's shown us his brilliance. Would you say he has colonized mind?
The question she asked, would you say Obama had a colonized mind? Is that correct, Mom? Is that any question?
Yes.
Tricky question.
Great question.
Is it for anyone?
Sure. Yes.
I think Obama does not have, I think Obama has his own mind, and that creates his own power. I think when you have a colonized mind, you don't have power. You have whatever your oppressor says is power.
I think it's hard to have an uncolonized mind or decolonized mind when you work for the colony.
work with.
I said, I think it's hard to have a decolonized mind when you work for the colony.
And to say he has power. The next question would be, does he have power?
I would not say.
You're still not working with a good definition of colonization.
What's the difference between that?
I think it's in context with the term of Obama. I mean, when you example with Obama. But I think, a colonized mind is somebody, a religious person who's not spiritual. That's what I think of colonized mind. Just when it's an act, when it's not spiritual, it's not,
I attempted to define colonization for myself, but I'm open to anyone to provide a
Isn't there a
definition for
definition in
themselves.
Mars book?
We can use
Suppression and exploitation.
exploitation, yeah. All right. Definition for colonization: suppression and exploitation designed to keep people powerless, mystified, dependent, and subordinate.
Could I add, can you hear me?
We'll repeat it.
Okay. Could I add, when you use the word mystified, suppression, exploitation, what's the rest of it?
Suppression and exploitation designed to keep people powerless, mystified, dependent, and subordinate.
I think one of the words in that definition that is truly significant is the word mystified, which means you think you know something maybe, but you're not clear. And I would also suggest that in some ways, all of us are colonized because we can't think as clearly as we wish we could. And I would use Obama as a prize example. And the example that I chose is that Obama, in his campaign and in his personality, has clearly indicated that he is not on board with the war. He doesn't really like sending people to war. And yet, when the general said he needed 30,000 more people, can you imagine that scene in the Oval Office when top military brass confronted Obama about the fact that they wanted these men and he did not want to send them? And I can just imagine that some of them have said to him, well, what do you know about the military? What do you know about waging a war? Now, he's a brilliant man. He has enormous logic on his side, but it's Western logic. And so they probably said to him, have you even been in the ROTC? And what would he have said? He would have said no. I mean, in his heart, he knows he's never been in ROTC. So he doesn't know anything about running an army, about being commander-in-chief. He has to rely on these people in the military to tell him what the best action is. And even though his spirit doesn't want to go along with what they say, when they challenge him about his experience and his ability to know what they ought to be doing, what happens? His mind reverts to Western logic. And he agrees with them that no, he has never been in the ROTC, and therefore that is one of the reasons that he doesn't know enough about how to run as commander-in-chief of the army of the country. So what does he do? He agrees that they know more than he does. That's what a colonized mind does. It does not feel that it knows as much as somebody else, that it is accustomed to respecting. He's accustomed to respecting his own logic, trained to believe in certain ways. And when they say it's syllogistic, And when they say, when they challenge his experience, he has to fall back on the fact that he has no experience. He doesn't say, get out of my face, just get your hat and get out of Afghanistan. He has the power to do it, but his colonized mind doesn't give him the will to do it. He backs up for their logic, which is not what he really wants to do. He doesn't want to send 30,000 people. But they have convinced him that he doesn't know how not to do this.
I want to switch. Excuse me. No, let me finish, Gary. Okay, you start asking me a question.
Are y'all friends?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah. Yeah, we battle all the time. I want to bring colonized mind down a little to everyone in here. And think about adults and young people too. Think about what your parents are teaching you right now. I don't know what your parents are teaching you. And as I think about what my parents taught me, my own personal experience, and the freedom to make decisions, understanding the consequences that could happen to me based upon a decision that is being made by me that does not represent the majority. And in most cases, it represents the minority. And with myself, I have had a colonized mind. I probably still have a little colonized mind because I'm still grappling with some things that I feel that I must do, but I'm not prepared to suffer the consequences in terms of my community. So, are we colonized? Are we sitting here as a colonized mind? That's my question.
And I would add on to that. How would we know if we were sitting here with decolonized minds?
Can I?
Yeah, Gary, go ahead now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My question was, how do you decolonize a locked-down, colonized mind? And would you need to have a spiritual force to do that, or could you do that from an intellectual force?
That's a great question. Maya Evans was speaking to Obama's dependence on his Western logic, and I was hoping that someone would explain the other side, the other voice that he can listen to to guide him.
Frederick Douglass said, and you know this, power concedes nothing without the man.
Right, nothing succeeds power but power itself.
So I'm saying that Douglass was saying that unless those left with colonized minds have the energy and the courage and the will to make our demands felt in ways that are effective, we don't change things. So to change things, we have to work at decolonizing our own minds. And that's almost like telling somebody with cancer to kill yourself. But you have to think through. We can leverage power. Do you remember, I've been trying to think whether it was January of 2010, when in New York City, people who were Hispanic flooded the streets. They gathered down in Manhattan, the place of black people, demanding citizenship. These were illegal Hispanic aliens, demanding citizenship of American government. They were trying to leverage power. Now, they had been African Americans I think they would have buses down there and dropping us off to
No doubt.
some other place. But they were trying, the Hispanics were trying to use race as power and leverage a place for themselves in the country. So when the Roman Minute says, use history directly, it appears to me that he's not just talking about our own African American history. Look at the history of white Americans themselves who came from England. Look at their Tea Party. Look at the Republican Tea Party. These are people leveraging power. Look at the Hispanics standing together and have the same thing. So we have to have citizenship. We may not be citizens, but we should. So, look around us and see who else has gotten what they want is because they knew how to leverage power.
I would just a brief comment on the issue of, I think Gary asked a question, I'm not sure if anybody spoke to it directly. Did they, Gary?
I'm just listening.
The question was,
not really.
The question, and you also tied it back to the idea of Western logic. The question was, can you decolonize your mind without spiritual intervention, or can you do it intellectually? So I just wanted to put the question back on the floor. But the other thing I really want to say that even conversations like this, these are the kinds of things we have to begin to have in our community. Just raise the question about, are we colonized mentally? And if so, why and how, what do we do about it? And on the issue of the cancer is even more difficult when you got that secondhand smoke still coming at you as you're trying to find a cure for your conditions. Just to put the question back. Maybe you want to speak to it.
Would you clarify your comment in terms of the first thing you said about the spiritual intervention?
I was brief. The question Gary put on the floor was, the question he raised was and it may have been addressed, we don't have to, but the question was, can you free your mind through an intellectual process only, or do you need to have some spiritual, esoteric component involved? Then Millie segued into Mari's comment about Obama and Western logic as a frame of reference of a thought process used in an effort to interface with its oppressor. So I was putting it back out there to see if you want to continue on that line tonight.
Yes, I think so. A spiritual aspect is needed. Listening to your intuition.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I say yes. I feel that a spiritual aspect is needed in order to reach your sense of freedom. Some refer to it as intuition, third eye, your first sense, but I do believe that is one of the clearest voices.
While I really believe in intuition and waiting for the spirit to come up on you, I find that sometimes I move so fast I'm not able to hear that spirit, and maybe I can lay down and ESP will come in. But in the meantime, it's not busyness for busy's sake. It's to join in and do that which you know you need to do. I think on page 89 in Mari's book, I don't know if it's been read. I find this so inspiring to read that, it's a pathway. It's something that you can do. You can put your finger on it. It's at the bottom of the third paragraph, and it says, such a group, colonized as we are, to relinquish control of itself, accepts its own subjugation as legal as mandated by the majority rule, and finds it difficult to even conceive of the grounding. You know you're not grounded when you're out there in the general culture floating along, and you can't even think of one thing or two things that or something that you really are doing that inspires you to reach that. And are you past situations where you know, well, I'm going to get back around to really working with that organization or working with that kid from down the street, but there's so many mundane things that seem important that get in the way. Grounding, or another word for grounding, planning, necessary to assert the right to self-governance inherent in humanity. We all know we need this. I know that there are people who talk about, wow, I came up poor, white, black, green, purple, I came up poor and therefore I don't have or I can't get. And now that we're adults, yes, we don't have. Yes, things come against us. But to the self-governance inherent in its humanity. Make sure, since you know that, then you're going to work for it. For to initiate such a struggle of self-governance enhanced in humanity, for to initiate such a struggle, complex and long-ranging, as it will require. This isn't joining an organization. We already know we went through Black Power. We already know we raised our fists. We know that was then, this is now. It's not even the same anymore. So you know it's going to be long range. It requires, first, the courage. I mean, if you get past 30 and you're not seeing the people you brought into the world, your progeny, your friends and relatives, young people that you know, how will it be different when they get to be college students? How will it be different? I mean, that is on us, my generation. That is on every 30-year-old that look back and say, well, how am I going to make it better for the kids I brought into the world, my friends' kids? The courage, that ought to give you the courage. Second, the intellectual freedom that only decolonized minds can bring to the table. Intellectual freedom. You can't get intellectual freedom just hoping it comes. There's reading, there's interaction, there's working with other groups who are trying to get something done. Intellectual freedom that only... And third, the energy and focus, long-range struggle demands. Long-range struggle demands, not request, should have. Throw a little something at it, a little energy, a little focus, then go do this over here, and then throw a little more energy. The energy and focus, long-range struggle demands. I mean, that was so poignant to me. That was so special. What grounding really means. So, spirituality should come. But
okay, I just wanted to amplify a little bit on spirituality. I read an article several years ago called "Whose Report Will You Believe?" In the concept of, I believe in the third eye, the intellect, but I also believe that there is a God consciousness. And so that, but one reaches that consciousness through very much the same process that the article comes, that Martin, that it has to be an unearthing of all of the colonization's abuses that have come with keeping people colonialized by the use of spirituality or the bad use of spirituality.
Yeah.
And so that if one reads, every colonized group was made to believe that what they believed spiritually was wrong, and that they had to adopt or adapt to the spirituality, which usually was misogynist or inappropriate, or the spiritual, which was really not even real spirituality, but was intended to manipulate one to be subjugated, one to be mystified inappropriately, so that to say then that we have to throw out a God consciousness, we have to throw out a higher relationship, we have to stop believing in that because our colonialists believed in it, we have to demystify it even from them to take back what it is. So then if you look at the question, whose report will you believe? We were told that they're very similar, they're very solid biblical principles that they taught, in fact, are lies. So even if you just read it, not even interpreting it, You don't even have to learn Greek and Hebrew. If you just go back and read it, what we were told it said is not what it said. So we were told that it said that the descendants of Ham were made to be slaves. It doesn't even say that. Right? So even if you just read it for yourself, you don't even have to have a preacher, a teacher. You don't have to have different concordances, commentaries, Hebrew or Greek. If you just read it, Ham was never cursed. Canaan was cursed, but Canaan was cursed because he was black. All of them were black. So it wasn't a cursing because they were black, but we were told that and told it over and over and over. So the same way in which we were as a people, we are as women. So then we were told that the Bible says these things against women. Read it! It doesn't say that. So that I think that part of the problem of not getting back intellectual control is that intellectually we have allowed other folks not to just define us culturally, not to define who we are as a people, but we've also had them to define us spiritually. And when we don't come to our own sense of spirituality and our own sense of strength, then it's all a juxtaposition that just doesn't work. So it's the same process.
I just want to add on to that our ancient ancestors, they knew that all power lies in the unseen realm, because they said, know thyself. And once you know yourself, when you're reading information, it transforms you. You're just not repeating stuff. It transforms your mind so you can come out of that locked down mind. But in order to know yourself, you have to deeply go in and uproot the things you know. I mean, we all come into this world knowing what to do. My grandmother would say, boy, you know better, when I was small, because I knew better. We all do. They call DNA, they have a scientific name, but spiritually it means divine natural activity. It's something we already have that we can unlock if we go back and research and read and study. And we can make a difference in our lives right now. You know, because our history is not something we should just be repeating. It should be something that transforms our thinking so that we can experience happiness every day. You know, so I think spiritually we have to go back to our ancestors, how they were able to move and transform the world. The things that we are not aware of today because our educational systems don't tell us this. And some things our parents don't know of this, but it's up to ourselves and our younger people to begin that process of change within first, before you can even think about changing anything outside your eyeballs. The change has to come within.
Two things. We got 10 more minutes. You two and then Richard. You and then your wife.
You go first. I'll go next.
I just wanted to ask a question of the group. I heard the question asked about can we decolonize ourselves intellectually or spiritually? And I want to know if that question, I feel like that question reflects a colonized mindset. And I want to know if you agree, and if so, why?
That's true.
Okay.
I think that I do agree with you, of course. I think the idea of spirit and intellect being separate is really a Western concept and a relatively new historical concept. And to even separate them in its own way denigrates the idea of spirit.
Right.
That spirit and intellect, they hand in hand. It's just another way of knowing. And so I think as we move to decolonize our mental frame of reference, we have to utilize both of those arsenals collectively. And of course, I'm of the perspective you let spirit lead you, and you let the rational or the Western or mental intellect kind of set the roadmap. You always listen to that inner voice at higher grade than yourselves. Lastly, I think there's a lot of ways of knowing. Reading is one way, but it ain't the only way.
That's right.
And that senior wisdom that you spoke to, Gary, is probably one of the most powerful forms of knowing if we can return and gain that sense of listening, because it's always there. But lastly, I know we're going to try to wrap up, as Billy said. One of the things we do is a commercial. One of the things that we do, not yet.
Let him and
I just want to say that we're not going to end the conversation if they can come back on the fourth Sunday and have it. And you can speak the rest of it.
Just right there.
Yeah.
First, let me use my brother here, Gary Howland, as an example. He has a DVD called The Historical Journey, and it starts with Obama, but it goes much further than that. It goes all the way back to our ancestors and the journey through. Spiritualism is something that I learned later on in life. I was taught religion, and I was taught religion by not just the teaching, but the practicing of Jesus Christ. And then as I got older, I realized that it was fictitious in how it was used to manipulate me. But I saw a greater power in my mother, who took this same Bible, and I saw her actions became practice in her beliefs. And then when I broke away from the belief and began to seek out, I found out that I wasn't as dumb as they told me. I'm dyslexic, I'm 70. So when I came through school, no one knew what dyslexic was. The power of my father, who said, I don't know what's wrong with you, I can't tell it, but you better not bring no more D's and F's in here. You have a mind, and anything you put your mind to, you can do it, Reggie. So I started using my own mind as to figure out what was wrong with me. I'm 70 now, and I'm still on my journey as knowing who I am and empowering, if I can use that word, any other young person to fight the system. I thought at 70 I would be retired from my being tagged as a militant, to an ombudsman, to whatever they called me, and I thought that I could just sit back. The struggle is never over. The struggle will never be over until the truth is told and accepted. And until it's accepted, until we stand up and tell the truth and stand by it. Last thing I'm going to say. My father told me, whatever you believe, if the whole world is against you, if you believe in it, stand for it. If it's not worth dying for, it means nothing. My mother said, Reggie, pray first, and it will come to you. So spiritualism is important. Your own beliefs, and I can't tell anybody their own beliefs, but your beliefs must be what you believe in. You cannot have the ocean without the roar of the sea.
I just want to say there were some allusions to the message to the young people. And I think that, we joke here all the time. We say the hegemony of Texas dead, and we talk about, the power of reading and having an understanding of your history and where you're from. But as Lerone Bennett said, we need to use history as a director, not to romanticize it and turn it into points of contention where we constantly arguing. And then because we have as I was listening to what we were saying, we're looking at the term colonization, decolonization, and you can see we can have a discussion about those things from now to 2000, whenever. In all actuality, though, when you think about decolonization, it's just a process of self-mastery. It's individual steps. It's your individual desire and yearn and recognition of things you need to do in order to improve your situation. Hence, or subsequently, you do that, you start improving the situation of those around you. The young people got to understand, though, that though I do agree that you do need to be cognizant of your history, and as M alluded, there are other ways, but the concept of work, as Ms. Fair talked about, and actually just getting out, and that includes failure, it also includes success, it also, and it's process-oriented. And through that process right there, yes, you use your books, you understand where you come from, but you got to start putting our shovels in the ground and turning dirt daily. The part that we don't like to do is the part you got to do every day. The consistent, mundane task of whatever we say we're going to do, we do it ethically, we do it in good faith and all those other things. That's just, and really, the conversation can move from there into some more practical terms that young people truly can understand, absorb, and use as they move along.
Everybody give a round of applause.